Hello everyone, my name is Joe Webb. I'm with the company AECOM. Thank you very much for coming here today. I'm with the company AECOM. With me here today is Nick Kuhn, Chaya, and Andrea. City staff is here, and we very much appreciate you taking the time to come out today and give us your input on the Community Recreation Master Plan. I'll explain more of that. With me here today, Nick, Chaya, and Andrea are with our team, and we have multiple people here from the city staff to help us through this. Relatively small group, so it's pretty informal here. We'll try and go through the information for you. We do have some stations to help get input to the process, but I'll explain those as we go. Our outline, or our agenda for today: background and purpose, master plan overview, our project schedule, questions, and then I'll explain the interactive exercises in the back. Overview of our purpose: the Community Recreation Master Plan is to provide an optimal delivery system for park and recreation services, etc. That's straight out of our scope of work. Kind of a long way of saying we're looking at everything. In other words, by comprehensive we mean it's parks, it's programs, it's operations, it's management, it's maintenance. Really looking at the entire park system, how it operates, the services it delivers, how to make it optimal. Master plan objectives: complete a comprehensive and transparent needs and priorities assessment. That's really what we're up to here, as well as many other activities. Our whole process is driven by the people like you coming out, talking to us, other means we're using to get input from the public. That will drive our needs and priorities, the vision, what programs should be delivered, what facilities should be built, and ultimately how it should be budgeted. So it's really taking it from that needs process to budget. Conceptual vision, that's putting it all together into one plan for the future, a realistic implementation plan. That was a very important part of the staff. The last plan done in 1999. I worked on it. I'll tell you, it was a beautiful plan. Everything was there. It was not a priority to make implementation a part of it. So the staff struggled to, okay, we love it. Yep, we want to do it. But they struggled in knowing exactly what to do to get there. So now this plan really has 1 year, 5 year, 10-year priorities of what to do. And then also as a part of it to identify, even taking that further, priority projects, the top 10 priority projects, and really turn them into what I like to call a sales brochure. In other words, a real synopsis of it that allows people to take down to grant sources, budgeting, everything to make it very clear why it's a priority. Not written here explicitly, but we've been asked also to look at the comprehensive system, but then also kind of do a focus in on the War Memorial Youth Center. Because it is such a significant facility in the system, so is this facility, certainly, but this is relatively new. People are pretty happy, and I think the youth center, they're really seeing where there may be a time for an update, so we've actually put extra effort on that. Excuse me. As we talk about a parks and recreation system master plan or comprehensive recreation system plan, we try and think of systems approach. It's always good to hear that we need a playground there, or there is a light is broken there. Those are always good things to hear, but we really also want to think bigger than that. You know, how do parks work together with the regional parks and beaches? How does our park system not only function as a park, but do we have appropriate access to the park? So good safe sidewalks and bikeways to it. So we try and think of a systems approach. This is a project we're also working on, and we'll probably have something similar for Coral Gables, but the city of San Diego, and showing how that sum total of the green public realm works together in a network to provide recreation across the broad community. That make sense? Our schedule, basically 1 year, and the steps that I somewhat described there are existing conditions. I'll describe that as doing homework. We've looked up the demographics, which I'll show some of. We've been out to all of the parks, looked at them, evaluated them, we've talked to people. But really that part, the existing conditions, was all of the homework, doing the GIS work, doing the mapping, everything a part of it. That brought us to what we're doing here today. This last week, we've had community meetings Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, this morning, this afternoon. During the days, we were doing what we call focus groups, which is meeting with people with a particular focused interest. That could be seniors or tennis. And that really helps to kind of drive down into particular areas that are predominant in the system. Again, putting that together in a vision and the other important implementation plan. The whole process is about a year. The way it's worked out here, that'll put us right on the cusp of the holidays. So whereas we anticipate being done in late November, it could be we end up finally presenting in January just because of the holidays. Again, research to date, these are a couple of just highlight slides from some of the homework we've been doing. You know, Coral Gables is still experiencing growth, but very, very concentrated nodes of growth. You know, the light pink is projected for slight decline, the light blue slight increase, but it's so slight it could be 1 or up to 500. So those are really just very, very stable locations that you see in the dark blue, you know, all the way up at Flagler, you know, little tiny node off onto the sides. It's really in some very concentrated areas on the fringes of the city. And age, continue to be an aging community, but it's unique here. Coral Gables, as we all know, is a unique place, but there's some demographic things that are a little unique too. Typically in a age distribution, you'll see low to high. It's usually almost linear. Here, fastest growing age group, age 55 to 74. That's not necessarily a great big surprise, but that also the second fastest growing group is under 14. If you look here, and sometimes numbers are only important unless you compare them to others, the gray bar represents the national average. So if you look at the national average compared to the colored bars that are Coral Gables, you know, we're under 5, we're under 5 to 14, under, we have a college, so we're over in the 15 to 24, but then every other category coming up to 65 to 74, quite a bit higher, higher, higher. So we're kind of at two ends in our growth. And that can be, I mean, that actually does influence what we're thinking. I mean, when we're looking at building new facilities, or perhaps we're looking at the youth center, maybe it's got to be looked at as more multi-generational. Maybe it's got to be more comprehensive in its delivery of not just youth programs, but more whole family kind of approach. Mode of transportation, we still continue to drive more. Unfortunately, sadly, although I think the city and we would love to see that walking increase more, it's actually down 2.6%. Fortunately, a little bit of increase in public transit. I do think the freebie may make a real difference as people get more familiar with it. Hope it does. And we've been actively talking about what the scooters might do to change transportation around. But again, this household size, back to the other point, in 2000, the average family household size was 2.9. Now it's 3.3, and that seems fractional, but when you extrapolate that over the whole city, it's actually significant. And that can be any number of reasons. Perhaps recent college graduates are staying at home longer or coming back to live with their parents. Perhaps it's an older adult is still staying with their family. We see this sometimes in what they say expensive places to live, where the family is more together, just almost out of necessity. So again, we've been out to the entire park system, we've visited them, 10 community facilities, places like this, 71 parks. You know, another significant thing of Coral Gables is you also have a very significant number of other providers. The county has major facilities at Matheson and along the coast that provides recreation, provides opportunity to the city, but is actually another provider. We're all residents of Miami-Dade County as well as city residents. That makes a really nice thing for the city. Again, our public involvement is what we like to call a mixed methods research methodology. That's just a term for saying, looking at the same thing and asking questions in a whole bunch of different ways to kind of look at the subject through a different lens. And in that way, look for those items that are consistently coming up as top priority and where we're continuing to hear the same input from people on what's most important, what's a need. So if you ask what's a need, what's most important, the words people take differently. So then you can start to hear what truly is people's most important and highest unmet need. Again, focus group meetings, community meetings, we've spoken to the advisory boards, both Parks and Recreation, Senior Advisory Board. Their input was very, very good. The statistically valid survey will be going out in May. This is probably our most powerful tool because it is representative of the entire city and cross-sectional and something that you can data examine, in other words, percentages. It will be random stratified, meaning that it will be representative of the community demographics as a whole. We've also broken it into north, central, and south, and the downtown separately, so that we recognize North Coral Gables is way different than South. Their needs may be different, their expectations may be different, and the downtown is different. So we're actually doing those statistically valid, and then we'll amalgamate them all, as a picture of the city as a whole. So we'll be able to compare and contrast those areas and different needs. Vision workshop that'll be coming up. If you signed in, you'll get a notice about it coming up, or you can watch the city's website. But we'll follow up with taking all these needs and priorities and trying to pull them together into a vision for the future. And then how to stay engaged, bookmark the website. This is the City of Coral Gables. Just go on the Coral Gables website, departments, community recreation, down at the bottom here, community input meetings. You can get all the information coming up on the master plan effort, as well as a link to an online survey. So if you're here tonight, but if you still want to put in your input here, we love that. There's other ideas, or if you want to sit down and fill it out with your family, your friends, that can be very helpful. Certainly if you have other people that you know that you think would be interested but weren't able to be here today, encourage them. We have a lot of the handouts there where we have actually a QR code right on it, so that if you just snap on it with your phone, it'll take you directly to it. 10 minutes, you can fill it out. That information is extremely valuable to us. I encourage you to please do so. We're a small group here, and I'll certainly get into questions, you can ask whatever, but I also want to explain our exercises. We got a series of things sitting here behind you. It's kind of a way to organize getting your input. First one is, station one is really just our attempt to figure out what you currently use and what you may need. So there's 50 some odd different recreational activities there. A green dot on them means you currently use it, interested in the activity, and the yellow dot says you have a need for it. And yes, you can put a green and yellow on the same thing where you currently use it, but you really need more. So that can be helpful. If, like on the last board on the back side there, if we missed it, if it's something that we don't have up there, just write in what it is, put your dots there next to it. We just tried to capture as many as we could. Station 2 takes it to a different level, and this is again asking people similar questions in different ways, but it's change or add. And just write in on it if there's a program that you currently participate in that you think should be changed, or a way something is done, write change. If we're currently just not doing something that would be very important or that you think we need, at it. And last but not least, or second from last, here is 5, 10, and 20 years. And this is actually driving towards a very important point, because I think we all recognize that as time goes by, our needs may change. I know every day I grow older, and I know some of the things I wish I really enjoy doing today, I can't do probably 5 and certainly not 10 years from now. I had to switch from running to biking. You know, I know that. But also for our young people with young children, you know, you recognize that your 4-year-old is going to be different 5 years from now and 10 years from now. So it really is trying to make you think about how your household's needs and priorities may change over time. Finally, the online survey, if you wish to take it at home or do it in another place, but if you want to just do it here right now, we have a couple tablets set up. You can just pick them up, 10 minutes, and you can give your input right here, right now. It's very easy to do, but the tablets are back there, and we have people here, you know, ready to help you walk through it. So that's the presentation. That's all there is to it. I'm glad you joined us. Thank you. We can explain more. Any questions? Nothing? All makes perfect sense. What do you think?
Okay, well, this makes sense. I have a couple comments. One is park at Alhambra and Gables. I went to meetings, I don't know how many years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I said, park, they're going to do this wonderful park. Okay, they finally did it. The first time that they started on it, they had to stop because the bids came in too high. I can't believe that they had to figure this out ahead of time. And now the park's done. It was used for a while, and now there's a fence around it because apparently the contractor, the gates weren't right. You know, it's been 5 years and that park's not accessible. My grandson is a baby. He can no longer use the equipment there because it's for 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
And this is what I see is
So we're
I go to
hearing
these meetings, but nothing gets done in any, in any kind of, you know, time frame that makes it worthwhile.
Okay, well, speaking specifically to the issue of park, the fence.
Betsy Adams.
Betsy
Yeah.
Adams.
Alhambra. Yeah, the park, we rejected the fence because it was not safe. It wasn't compliant. It posed a head entrapment. We're currently negotiating with the contractor to
But
replace
what
it.
I'm saying, why weren't these things thought of before, but, you know.
No, they
put it
were.
in all.
The contractor just didn't put the right fence in. So we're, instead of paying for the wrong fence and then
Yeah, I understand.
addressing it later,
But-
we're taking
but
care
it's-
of it.
But it's been, as I said, 5 years, and my grandkids are now outgrowing that park.
Well, initially that park was built by a different administration, by another city manager, and they decided not to put the fence in.
Yeah,
When the Parks Department was included in the conversation, we said that it was very important to put a fence in when you have a park, a playground, so the children would not run into the oncoming traffic on Alhambra, which isn't ever slowed down because people fly down that street, as you know. So we put the fence in, we advocated, the city allocated the money for it, and we're trying to get it done and fixed. As soon as the fence is put in, a new landscaping, we're hoping to be able to move forward and just keep it as it is.
planning meetings were great, and we decided what kind of equipment we were
Yeah.
gonna put in, all that was great, and then the first thing that happened is, you know, nothing was done because the bids had come back too high. Well, before you, I mean, I don't know, if I'm gonna
Agreed.
remodel my house, I'm gonna have more or less an idea how much I can
Right.
afford before I.
And you don't want to
send
show
out
somebody
bids.
a $2 million concept and tell them, well, we only have 700,000.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. Parks wasn't included in that conversation initially when that was done. So they didn't, a lot like you guys, we consider ourselves the end user or the client.
Uh-huh.
We weren't included in that conversation. So finally, at the end, when the park was pretty much open, and they said, hey, Parks, can you guys do the ribbon cutting? We started looking around and seeing that there was a lot of issues with it after they turned the park over to the Parks Department. It was under it was under Public Works before that. So we had to address all these things.
Maybe
And
what we need is a meeting with Public Works, because I guess they would be sidewalks too. Would they be ones?
they would be also sidewalks, right? So you're right. This is, although that I agree with your concerns, this is a little different, and this will feed into that plan. Also, a lot of parks, they don't have, we haven't had a plan in a while, so this is what this will be.
Yeah, and I do think, and that's been recorded in every single meeting we've had,
Yeah.
that issue with Betsy Adams. I do want to take this back to systems thinking. You know, we understand that went wrong. I think everybody is ready to apologize that that project should not have gone maybe through the circuitous route that it is. But, you know, through this plan, one of the ways to solve that is we go through, we prioritize, we give budget level numbers to every project out there. You know, part of creating an implementable plan and having those 10 project sheets is to say, we have we have a method, we know the price, we do, so there's a real understanding in the part of the parks that not just going through the master plan, but implementing it effectively is what's driving people nuts here.
Exactly.
And like, I wasn't even involved that, I don't know, maybe it was last year on making bike paths and planting, or the planters, what's happened to that? You know?
There's a lot of the residents, I was just actually telling Joe the story, residents decided they didn't want it. After the planters went in, the residents said it was a terrible idea. That was Up University, a bike path, and they had piloted it there with the planters to pilot and see how it worked. Community said completely no, that they were causing more traffic, they were going to cause issues, so they pulled it back. And
But I read they were going to put a sidewalk along the university.
they wanted to, and the pilot was the planters. And then when the community found that they were shortening the streets and making basically narrowing the streets and making it for bikes, they
Absolutely didn't
they
want
turned
it.
on the city, basically.
Because I know that was planned, they were to check off, you know, and they were.
Everybody who was at the meeting wanted it, but I guess a lot of people did not attend the meeting, which happens in these community meetings, and they called their commissioner, the commissioner pulled the project. The city's hands were
It
tied
seems
in
like,
that
you know,
case.
you wonder why not many people come to these, but it's kind of a waste of time. You come and you come and you come and you talk and it's great ideas and nothing gets done.
Well, part of the problem is, you know, it is just as few. If this was a full room and those people that had concerns with it being it were here with at the same time of people who are advocating for it, you'd hope that you could find consensus. Or if not, at least come to concurrence
But
on
then I
a
don't
decision.
understand why their voices override everybody else's if they don't even come to meetings, you know?
Well, yeah, I guess I can't solve that because I guess they live on the street and that particular commissioner is probably very responsive to the direct constituents that live on that
So
street.
to echo what Joe was saying, that what from us, this will help us basically, so that when there is concerns or complaints, we can say, there was a plan that was made the next 15 years, this was approved by the commission, which it is approved, and any deviation from this plan would be basically, you shouldn't do that, because this is the plan, this is what we're budgeting, and this is what we're doing. We haven't had that, or one that was, I think, realistic is the word they were using in a while, so this will help us to map out.
The planning and design, this isn't unique here. This is typical of South Florida, it's typical of other places that it's always fits and starts, it's sometimes hard. We try really hard to, through these kind of one of the approaches to their frustration with what you're experiencing is to develop a plan that, okay, it's A to Z, and let's make this driven by the community need, and let's be able to express exactly why it is, and be able to overcome those. That's not easy for them either, you know, to always be running around doing and redoing the same things keeps you from doing what you should be doing next. It's surprising because I think this is way more pronounced in South Florida. I work all over the country, and in other places, people show up, they give their ideas, compromise is found, consensus or not is found. If it's just not consensus, but generally, you know, I would say 80% of the time, there's some kind of compromise consensus that you can walk away with. And then there isn't the serendipitous after the fact, call the commissioner and cut the thing off at the knees. It's like, no, that's the decision and you move ahead.
Professional time, money,
It's kind of a paradigm where we get into that. And part of it is because I don't have 50 people here.
Who's part of the decision-making and approval process for this final plan?
Ultimately, the commission will have to adopt or approve it.
Mhm.
So if it becomes an official document, then it's actually in, and they will use it for their budgeting. That will be how they develop their capital improvements program. There could easily be, as a part of it, a funding mechanism that will be triggered by it. It will have to pay for all these projects. That sometimes adds rigor to it, because if it's within a funding program, and there was a specific commitment of the people who voted on it, that makes it better to move forward, because changes in those that are considered a promise to the community are harder to change than what they say line item budgets that can be written and rewritten annually. So this is one of the ways the Parks Department is trying to circumvent that kind of like day-to-day rushing to the fire
And create
activity.
a continuity of service, so we can provide the same service over and over based off.
Yeah,
This
equity is a big principle, access is another, you know, just basic fairness, beauty. We are in Coral Gables, we know that I can't just throw up a block building and put a tin roof on it and think that that's gonna be okay. We're gonna run the gamut of the Board of Architects, so.
Can you go back to the map of the city and talk about the north and south borders and east and west
Which way?
boundaries? Yeah.
Well, what's your question?
Can you talk me through the north and south boundaries and east and west boundaries of Coral Gables specifically?
Well, the area,
With the
now I
studies
got
and
it.
help us.
You know, these are the borders. You can see of the more visible, we grade back the areas. We're cutting off, I believe, from, this is north, I think here is central, and we're talking this is south. Do you have that board? Fine.
The sector one?
Yeah,
I guess I can look at it over
Is
there.
that the big box, right? Was that High Pines?
Yes,
Davis?
yes.
That's the part they're talking about?
Yeah, and then also the
And Little
north,
Gables.
and then the north Little Gables.
yeah.
So-
Those aren't included because they haven't been officially.
What happened at the commission meeting on Thursday? That's where they started voting on this, right?
No, Thursday was a swearing in.
Yep, thank you very much.
The next commission meeting
Oh,
is
next,
this
oh, the
Tuesday.
16th.
Tuesday, this Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is kind of how we split it.
And I believe they are going to vote on it or discuss it.
And that's only to do the, like, the survey, but then we've also
Where are
done,
we now?
Here's the,
Sorry.
we're right in here.
Okay.
There you go, thank you. So, you know, we're in the downtown area, the Miracle Mile. And all we're recognizing, that isn't to say one over the other, is that there's differences. And the needs may be different, so like we conducted meetings across all three, we're doing the survey uniquely, but combinable across all three. So that we don't blend them all together and what is the need of all is applied to the north.
So this is not just about new parks and programs, it's about maintaining existing.
And changes to others, you know, there can be subtle changes and there is, I will say, and I'll go off on my Parks and Recreation thing, I've spent my entire life in Parks and Recreation. It's my passion, it's what I do. When I'm off, I tend to go to parks. Memorial Day weekend, I'll be at Millennium Park in Chicago. You know, that's what I do. I don't know if they quit paying me if I keep doing it, but, you know, parks is changing. And there are things I'd say are fads or new ideas, dog parks and pickleball. And then there are trends, which I'd say are driven by our true changes in our society. We are changing as an American society. When I started in Parks and Recreation, it was a big shift. It was sports. You know, it was post-World War II, and we were going to build an Olympic swimming pool so we had the best athletes. We were training young men to be the best soldiers, and you know, it was just a mentality of, you know, grow kids into ideal citizens. It was just everything was a competitive sport, and now. Two people are working, we're having less children, people are having children older, we're way more health conscious. It isn't, I would put the whole thing together in what I'd like to term at-will recreation. You know, it used to be 4 guys meeting on Saturday morning, tea time at 9 o'clock, or Tuesday night bridge club, that's gone. People like to recreate most dominantly now in things that they can choose to go to. It might be walking or biking or other things, so if you leave at 10 or 10:15, 10:20, whatever, you two are going together, you don't show up for the group, and you can still go. It's not ruined, it's not like bridge. When we do recreation needs assessments, it's funny because if you ask people that work in the Parks and Recreation day in, day out, they're going to tell you, oh, it's, you know, soccer, and we got to have more baseball, we got to have this. But when I cross-sectionally look at the community of everyone, every single person is represented, whether they are currently using the parks or not. It's walking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, mountain biking. We're currently doing San Diego that I showed the image. The first sport came in at number 16, soccer. But that's what people do for fun. If you add in leisure, aren't necessarily as competitive, they're not as formalized leagues. It could be kickball, it could be anything. Much more social. Much more focused on staying healthy and doing things with other people than about winning a trophy. So, that was a long answer to a simple question, but you know, you have to look out into the future to a certain extent to make sure that I worked on the 1999 plan for the community center down here, and it was heralded as the best in the entire world. They gave tours and everything of what it is. I go now from 20 years later and come from places that I, even in Miami-Dade County, come back to it, and I'm, boy, this place really, like, the only person I can blame is myself, you know? So, you know, you live long enough to criticize your own work.
What are you seeing around the country or around the world that interests you, that makes you kind of excited about what other places are doing?
What I see working is multi-generational and multifunctional. We've gotten better and better. More and more so, families are not the typical traditional, and you may end up arriving at a community center with 3 generations. You know, you're going to want to go to the gym, kids may want to go to gymnastics, I might want to go to yoga, any number of things. So as much as you can put them together and stop building a senior center over here, and after school is here, and that, and many more activities. Sunny Isles Beach is a relatively new one. We're getting a lot better at movable walls. We're getting a lot better just architecturally at being able to transform space. These lines are for pickleball. What used to be these clunky things that used to kind of half divide almost just visually a room, actually are pretty good now. We just did the Father Gerard King Juice building up in North Miami, and I mean, that space transforms into 6 after school, to 3, to 2, to 1. On the weekends, it's weddings and funerals, and then it goes back to any number of different configurations that keep making it usable. You're not just using it after school, you're not just using it from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. You know, the place is humming with activity. The senior activity, or I would say active older adults, is not off. It's tangential. They don't want to be in the middle of the fray, but it's not isolated. It's socially still connected. It's still a part of it. They're just taking a different life approach to it. And it might include aquatics, and it might include other things. It might include indoor aquatics for therapy, swim. You know, that's really a very important thing in particularly aging communities. So that's what I see is really turning people out like mad. I look at this facility and I think it was very appropriate for its time, but the gym is way too small. The showering facilities, our expectations are way higher now. We really do expect privacy and cleanliness and beauty, and you know, maybe we're just getting that way in our lives, but I would not consider those comparable anymore. Stuff like that.
And I know that the city locally has a ton of really great architects and engineers and people like that in the community who are professionals at this. Are there separate meetings for those types of folks that are getting input, that want to get input, that are residents or have businesses?
Yeah, we've had some. I mean, we had one this week. I believe we have very great architects on our team. And those that, I mean, honestly, Michael was working on it throughout his entire life. He does really amazing work across Coral Gables. And
Who is that?
Michael Kerwin.
Oh.
Yeah. So we have a team here. Our office, we have an office here in Coral Gables. So we try and do that very much and very respectful of what I say, the Coral Gables aesthetic. Yeah. Always important when working here. So you've been quiet. Jump in.
I'm listening. Well, I missed the first part. I attended the focus group about youth sports and athletics on Thursday.
Great.
And so I didn't know if this was going to be, well, I mean, I was going to maybe go through your slides on my own if I can after, I don't know. I don't know if you can let me see the slides or something.
And the reason
And
this
do
is
that.
here is they're gonna post it, and then I don't know if this gentleman will edit my words, or they'll just reuse my words, someone reread them, so that the audio and visual will be available online, so you can track
Oh,
through
that's
it.
good, yeah.
You can do that. But if you wanna take the thing, yeah, you can.
Are you from the same company as the people who do the focus group, AECon? or something?
Yeah,
AECon.
yeah, that was probably Nick
Oh, okay,
back
yes.
there.
Yes, and Rita? Yes, yes.
Yeah, we were actually kind of parallel doing meetings during the day. While Nick was doing focus groups, I was actually meeting with the commissioners.
So if I gave input about my ideas then, I don't need to repeat it here.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got the idea if you were there and.
Yeah,
told
what
us.
I said was, could we have a track and field club
Okay,
for all ages at the youth, based out of Houston?
okay. Well, if you gave it
I gave
that,
that,
we
yeah, we discussed
probably,
that, we discussed
it didn't get thrown away. We got
that.
it.
Yeah, I'm not,
It's gonna be
I didn't
rewritten.
think so.
Okay. But that, you're welcome also to look at it in a broader sense. Maybe you have a different perspective as a system.
Well,
Up to you.
I'm gonna take you in terms of, well, what, I mean, like,
Well,
In
you're
terms of
talking
what
about
I-
your track and field
facilities
experience, but
overall?
what about you as a casual user of neighborhood
oh,
parks?
as a casual user of neighborhood and neighborhood parks, this is
For
something we
example.
also talked about, and this lady mentioned the word sidewalks, and I didn't hear what she said about it, but we were talking about the fact that all the sidewalks are concrete, so people should not run on concrete. I
Absolutely,
cannot,
I
I
can't.
cannot run on concrete.
From
So that-
running
so I
on
have to
concrete
run-
is the reason I have to bike now.
Yeah, I have to run in the road because
Yeah.
all of our sidewalks are concrete. So I have to either be in the road, facing traffic. I see a lot of people running with traffic, with their back to traffic, which is so dangerous. But a lot of our other streets don't have any sidewalk at all.
Sidewalk, not even grass before.
And so it would be nice if we could have, part of Coral Gables, obviously Old Cutler, we get way down south, I think where you have to drive to get there, has a nice asphalt,
Right,
non-concrete
right.
running path.
Old
But
Cutler.
up in this neighborhood, I would love to see at least one route of, like the 5K, for example, along the 5K race course, they run a lot of 5K and 10K races
Yeah,
that run either around the Granada Golf Course or by
Yeah.
the Biltmore. Could that 5 and 10K course have sidewalks that are not concrete? So
Right.
that runners could
and I
actually run
know
there.
from another avid runner here, as we're also doing work for the Ludlow Trail. And,
Oh, that's nice.
we're working for Miami-Dade County on that, and one of the requests is that there be not just a trail for bicycle, and this is often when if there's a lot of population, you do need to separate bicyclists and pedestrians.
Yeah.
And that
Mhm.
pedestrian part de-rubberized.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Frank D. Ruiz, he's
Yeah.
an avid runner,
Yeah,
and he was
he's the-
suggesting
he's the
putting that
marathon-
rubberized
The runner.
surface on
He's
it.
like the runner in the
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
founder of the marathon and he
Right.
coaches
Yeah.
cross country at Berlin.
And he's often, I consider him a friend, we do things, and he's often giving input on plans we're developing, so, that was his suggestion for that. So right now, we have that on plan for Ludlow, that would be 6 miles of continuous
Oh, that's awesome.
rubberized surface.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I think it is important, and again, it's not just Coral Gables, but Miami-Dade, we're growing older. And that impact, like I say, I used to run around downtown all the time, I cannot anymore. My back and knees,
Yeah, my back.
it's the reason I have to bike now, I
Yes.
can't run anymore. I probably should have stopped 5 years ago. Or found someplace that had asphalt. But, that's a good question. Why don't we do this? We can hang around here and we can continue to talk, but do you want to start on some of our exercises back here?